Good evening, class, and we're going to actually do some solve by factoring examples. We watched the video today in class, and so I just wanted to do a couple extra practice problems with you. You need to do these notes and then turn them into class tomorrow. Alright, so if you remember from the video, we're going to be solving the equations by factoring. We learned this week how to graph, and now we're going to learn how to factor. Remember, we're looking for the values when the variable is 0, so in this case we have b. Remember, we have to have this set equal to 0 to begin. So the first thing we're going to do here is add 6 to both sides. So I add 6 here and add 6. They cancel there. And then wind up with b squared minus 11b plus 30. Okay? So now we want to factor this to solve. So, and then it equals 0. So remember, we want to know, we want to have factors that multiply to give me positive 30, but add to be negative 11. Okay? So I think about all my factors that multiply to give me 30. I have 1 and 30. I have 2 and 15, 3 and 10, and 5 and 6. Okay, so when I look at that, I know this has to be a positive, and this is a negative. So positive times a positive will give me a positive, but if I add two positive numbers together, I don't get a negative. So if I make two of these negative, then I will get add to get a negative number. So if I make this a negative 5 and a negative 6, it's going to multiply to give me 30. But if I also add negative 5 plus negative 6, it's going to give me my negative 11. Okay, so now we're going to take that and we're going to expand the middle term to be negative 5b minus 6b, and we have 30 on this side, and b squared, okay, equals 0. So we're going to split it in two like we did before. What's in common between b squared and 5b? We have a b in common. So I'm going to divide each one of these terms by b, factor it out. So b squared divided by b is 1b, and then negative 5b divided by b gives me negative 5. Okay, so I'm going to bring down this sign with that term, so I'm going to minus, and I'm going to factor something out here. Remember, I know I need this to be identical, but I look at this, I know that negative 6 also goes into 30, so I'm going to factor out a negative 6. Divide this by negative 6, and this by negative 6. Negative 6b divided by 6, negative 6 is positive b. 30 divided by negative 6 is minus 5. Okay, so I have my two that are in common. I write those out. B minus 5 times b minus 6 equals 0. Okay, so now we use our zero product property. Set both of these equal to 0. B minus 5 equals 0. B minus 6 equals 0. And then solve for b. I add 5 to both sides, and I get b equals 5. Add 6 to both sides, and I get b equals 6. So my answers are 5, 0, and 6, 0. So these are my x-intercepts of that graph. Okay, so let's look at our example 2. I have 4r squared minus 4r plus 168. So and this is set equal to 0. So our first thing we need to do is see this 4 going to 52 and 168. Can I factor that out? And I can. So if I divide each one of these terms by 4, okay, I'm going to wind up with 4 on the outside. There's only two terms to the variable, so can't factor out a variable. I have r squared. 52 divided by 4 is 13r, and then 168 divided by 4 is plus 42, and that's equal to 0. So now we're going to factor this one just like we have been factoring. I have a new a and c, so I do a times c adds to b, so I need factors of 42 that add to give me negative 13. Again, these are positive, and this is a negative, so I'm looking for two numbers that will be negative. So I have 1 and 42, 2 and 21, 3 and 14, and 6 and 7. So when I look at these, I realize that a -6 and a -7 multiplies to give me +42. A -6 plus -7 will give me -13. Okay. So now I'm going to expand this middle term. R squared becomes -6r minus 7r plus 42. Okay. Divide it into, we have, what's in common here would be r. There's no constants or coefficient in common, so divide this by r and this by r. R squared divided by r is r. -6r divided by r would be -6. Okay, looking at the second set, bring down my negative sign. I'm going to factor out a -7. So I have a -7 on the outside of the parentheses. -7r divided by -7 is just r, and then 42 divided by -7 is going to be -6. Okay, so we write what's in common, r minus 6, and then r minus 7. Have that set equal to 0, and then we bring down our GCF. Okay, well, our GCF, we can set that equal to 0, but that really doesn't do us anything. There's no variables with it, so we don't solve that. So I have r minus 6 equals 0, r minus 7 equals 0. Solve for 0, so I would add 6 to both sides here, and I get r equals 6. So 1 0 is going to be 6 0. And then I add the other one, add 7, I have r equals 7. So my other 0 is 7, 0. Okay. Alright, so let's look at example number 3 here. Remember, our first rule of factoring is that we need to always look for a GCF. Alright, so I notice I don't have any coefficients in common other than 1, but I notice that they share a v. And remember, we look for the lowest exponent for our variable. So this is a 1. So I'm going to bring out a 1 and divide each term by v. So I know that v squared divided by v is going to give me 1v left, and then 2v divided by v is going to be 2. And have that set equal to 0. Alright, so keeping with the zero product property, we set v equal to 0, and then v plus 2 equals 0. So subtract 2 here, subtract 2. I have v equals 0, and then v equals -2. So my zeros of this graph are going to be at 0, 0, and -2, 0. That will be where I cross the x-axis. Keep in mind, guys, that when we're solving for 0, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for my x-intercepts. Remember, we call them x-intercepts, roots, and solutions. So every time we solve this, this is giving my x-intercepts. So if you want a quick visualization, you know you're going to cross here and then over here at -2. So you know that your graph is going to go through those points. And then if you want to know your vertex, you do the -b over 2a. -b over 2a here would be -2 over 2 is going to give you -1. Put that back in and you get -1. So your graph is going to look like that. Okay, that's what we're looking for. That's the goal of the solving for the solving by factoring, is we are looking for the x-intercepts without having a graph. Alright, our last example we're going to do here is 3b squared plus 33b plus 84. Okay, and this is set equal to 0, so all I need to do is see if I have a common factor. So does 3 go into 33? Does it go into 84? I only have a b squared and a b here, so I can't factor out any variables. So let's divide each one of these terms by 3. And I know 3 into 3 is 1. 33 divided by 3 is 11. And then 84 divided by 3 is 26, I think. 26. Here goes 2 with 2 left over, 28. 28 times. So we're going to do 28 there. Okay, and that equals 0. Okay, so now I'm looking for factors of 28, and that will add to 11, because my new a is 1. 1 times 28 is 28, and I want something that adds to give me 11. So So I know 1 times 28, can't get 11 that way. 2 and 14, okay. I could subtract 2 from 14, that would give me a 12, but then that would be a negative 28. 3 doesn't go into 28, 4 does. 4 goes 7 times. Aha! 4 times 7 gives me 28, and then 4 plus 7 will give me 11. So those are my factors. So remember, we use this and we're going to split the middle term to 4b plus 7b. I didn't change the equation, I'm just changing the middle term. Okay, so now we're going to split this up into 2. What's in common between b squared and 4b? I know I have a b in common, so I'll bring that on the outside and divide each one of these terms by b. So b squared divided by b is 1b left. 4b divided by b is plus 4. Okay, bring down the sign in the middle. 7b and 28 have a 7 in common. I'm going to factor out. 7b divided by 7 is just b, and then 28 divided by 7 is 4. So my factors in common is b plus 4, and what's on the outside for the other one, b plus 7 equals 0. So now we're going to use the zero product property, just like we have been, set each one of these factors equal to 0. Okay, so subtract 4, so I get b equals negative 4. So one of my zeros are going to be at negative 4, 0. And then subtract 7 from both sides, and I get b equals negative 7. So my other 0 is at negative 7, 0. So these are my 2 zeros. Okay, so jot down any questions you have for me for tomorrow. Make sure you complete the Google Doc or the survey at the end that follows the video, and I will see you tomorrow. Have a good night.